Welcome to the Clash of the Titans 2015, sponsored by PwC. Representing the London School of Economics, we have Rain Newton-Smith, who is Director of Economics at the CBI.
We see the UK as remaining one of the bright lights in the global economy over the next couple of years, with growth of around 2.4% this year and 2.6% next year. And really, that will be driven by the twin engines of consumption and investment growth. It will be a domestic demand-led growth, whereas exports, the world economy, won't really be making a big contribution to our growth here. I think the main engine we see here in the UK is consumption growth. So we're moving to the phase of this recovery where employment growth is starting to slow, but at the same time, we're seeing fairly robust pay growth. And if you put that alongside the rock bottom inflation we see at the moment, households are feeling much more confident, and we're seeing them spending that higher pay growth on the high street and benefiting from the low oil prices, which means they have more money in their pockets after they're filling up at the pump. And that sort of sugar rush is still feeding its way through the economy. And it's one of the reasons why we expect to see consumption growth of around 3% over the next couple of years. At the same time, the corporate sector as well is feeling quite confident, and we can see that reflected in strong investment intentions that we see in our surveys. And we see overall profitability in the business sector remaining quite high. And if you put that alongside the very low interest rates we see at the moment, it means that there's lots of space for investment. Apart from a couple of sectors that are suffering at the moment, and those are our North Sea oil producers. The low oil prices is just making some of those oil fields just not profitable with prices where they are at the moment, and so they're really taking a hit. The other area is a lot of our manufacturers, particularly those who export to the euro area, are really finding things tough at the moment. And that reflects the fact that the pound sterling is very strong against the eurozone. So they're just not feeling very competitive when they're exporting to the eurozone. And you can see that reflected in our surveys and what businesses tell us about some of those other conditions. And I think more globally, we're adjusting to a situation where China is going through this tremendous transformation. It's moving from a model where credit-fueled investment growth has been driving its manufacturing and property sector to one where the urban consumer is much more at its heart and is much more driven by services. And at the same time, growth as a whole is really slowing in China, and I think the rest of the world is starting to feel the impact of that. It no doubt creates some big opportunities for the UK, particularly some of our businesses who specialise in financial services or healthcare or media, some of the areas where the UK has a big advantage and where that rising middle class in China and the rest of Asia will be looking to grow over the next few years. But I guess when I think more globally about what are the big risks to the UK economy, to my mind, my black swan relates to the overall amount of debt we see in the economy. Emerging markets over the past 7 years have built up a lot of debt within their corporate sector. And I think if you put aside some of the build-up in debt globally, alongside very, very low inflation, no one's quite clear how we'll see that overall process of deleveraging happen, and I think it's got further to go. So I think we could see a trigger that could unpick some of those vulnerabilities in the global financial system. And if that happened, I think we'd feel the effects here in the UK, even if our central view, our best guess, is that the UK is going to grow quite strongly over the next couple of years, 2.4% growth this year, 2.6% next year. So it will remain a bit of a steady ship, but undoubtedly there'll be a lot of global waters that could knock us off course over the next couple of years.